Hey YouTube, what's up? It's me, Amaxter. We're back with episode 12 of Behind the Mod, and for this episode, we have the entire Chisel team joining us, or I guess the main developers. We have Drullkus, minecreatr, and tterag. Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi.
So I guess all you, Chisel, you're not the first developers to work on Chisel, I guess, but obviously,
Definitely not.
yeah,
No.
you're now the kind of main developers working. Well, the developers working on the real Chisel. So
If you see Assie's, well, the old, I guess Assie's not, the page on BTM, it says the Chisel author is half the modding community.
yeah, there's been a lot of cooks in that pot, but you guys are the I guess most recent maintainers, and you've been doing a pretty good job of it. So how did you guys get involved with Chisel?
Basically, I do the textures. It's pretty much the core. Well, it's the most important part of the chisel. It's what comes from the chisel tool. These two guys, minecreatr and tterag, they're the ones who make the beat work. I'm just basically doing the skin of the whole mod. But we're a team and we make it work.
Yeah, we all got involved at kind of at different points in the stage. I think Drullkus was probably around first. He helped back when Cricket was still the maintainer, did a lot of textures then. And then later on, I started doing some fixes later on my own version, and quickly realized that was not going to be a great idea.
Yeah, you had some ideas for slimming down Chisel, which basically there was some problems with the bloats, which they were just simply too many unnecessary blots in Chisel, where you had maybe too many blots in the area of white colored blots. I don't know, we had like maybe 4 blot.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of initially, like I said, I started with my own version, but quickly just kind of for the mod. I didn't want to. Oh, my internet is not doing great. Sorry. It's if I kind of cut out, let me know.
Oh, that's fine. You sound fine now.
It's intermittent. Anyways, so I was saying I kind of started with my own version at first, and I kind of realized that wasn't going to be a great idea. You know, no one was going to use it, or it was going to kind of split everything up. So I offered to kind of move my fixes over to Cricket's version. It just did that again, didn't it?
Sort of extended the no, so we can still tell you we're saying no.
Yeah, it's Wi-Fi, so it's kind of in and out. What was I saying?
That you basically took on what the Cricket did.
Well, I moved what I'd worked on over to his version, and from there started helping out on that version, and that's where I came on. That was more than a year ago at this point, definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely more than a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 1.7, I guess.
Yeah, 1.7.10.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I guess I was the last one. What happened actually is I basically was just hanging around, and it was still in 1.7, and 1.8 had come out relatively recently, and mods were still like not updating. Everyone was waiting, all that sort of stuff. And so basically, what I did is I actually basically just asked everyone like Cricket, tterag, basically the people who were in there, another guy like CPT Space Toaster, he actually helped me a bunch. I basically I started rewriting the mod designed for 1.8 because of all the changes. And so basically, I made a rewrite like that, and then eventually I offered like that to Cricket and some other people, because I worked on that for like a few months. It was hard to get connected textures done in 1.8 at first. So then basically Cricket sort of said like, oh, I don't like your version, I want to make my own. And
yeah, so what happened from there is a whole bunch of drama, which we won't really get into now because it's not the time or place. But it ended up that we kind of made our own version independently. All decided to kind of work on our own, and now we have this one. And the version for like 1.8, 1.9 is a complete rewrite. It does borrow some code from 1.7, but it's pretty ground up. I would say at least 90%.
Yeah, like I wrote the main mod classes. Pretty much I wrote the whole thing from scratch, and then basically we've improved it a lot since then and added in a bunch of code snippets, but it was like it started out as like its own thing, sort of.
Right.
I still have the old repo somewhere in my private GitHub, but like if you look around, it's like my GitHub and then Chisel WIP. It's like the older versions because tterag and we improved it. We've improved it quite a bit since my first 1.8 version.
For sure.
Yeah. So ever since the rewrite, we've been kind of improving various sections of Chisel. For 1.9, I've cleaned up some of the blocks. I've retextured a lot of them. I'm still retexturing, so there's going to be a lot more, and they're going to be a lot better compared to 1.7. Also, we just recently teased some really cool stuff related to a new chisel called the iChisel.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we're going with that name.
That's the working title for now.
Yeah.
No, I don't like it. I prefer Windows.
You'd better get your lawyers ready.
Yeah, we probably this place like near where I live called like iTie, and I think it just disappeared one day because they probably sued into oblivion.
The working title I started with was High Tech, which is kind of bland. I'm terrible with names, so
yeah.
Drullkus suggested iChisel, which isn't. I guess it isn't a ton better, but it's better than what we had.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we'll see.
Maybe it's advanced chisel. I don't know. We still have to.
Yeah.
That's not the most. We want to make it before we name it.
That's actually really interesting because if I remember, the original Chisel was really kind of more fantasy themed, I guess, or it had these painterly textures. It was that kind of theme of decoration mod. So I guess, are you taking it in more of a high tech direction?
The legacy textures, they were actually a mishmash from old texture packs and maybe some other textures that either Pokefen or AZ put in. I'm pretty sure Pokefen put a few other blocks into the mix.
It's really hard to go back and trace where everything came from.
I mean,
yeah.
You know what, I think that the blocks are more important than the chisel itself. I know the mod is named after it, but the real purpose of the mod is to provide decoration. I mean, the chisel GUI itself is somewhat so. Just making it high tech is just a way of making a tool that allows you to make it. But the blocks themselves can still be as we still have ones that are somewhat fantasy, some like high tech ones. But it's just the tool itself. I guess maybe it makes more sense to be high tech because of what it's doing. I don't know.
Right, it's about the content. So yeah, you've kind of adopted Chisel's going interesting new directions, and I think very recently, I'm not sure when this will come out, but I guess in the last few days on the Reddit, you asked for feedback on the GUI, and now you kind of shown this preview of the GUI that you're going to use, I guess, for making these chiseled blocks, and it looks really cool.
Well, yeah, that's the one. That's the one for the high tech chisel we were just talking about. I think actually.
Yeah, the iChisel, whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah.
What's it been like? I guess developing that.
Really, what I.
Well, tterag's been doing pretty much all the development for that. I've been busy the past few days, so honestly, I haven't been involved in that. I've been pretty much just walking through Reddit and looking at the GitHub commits. But besides that, it's mostly tterag. It's pretty much tterag.
That feedback post went up, and I started looking at a lot of the stuff, and it was all a lot of good feedback, but it would kind of require a ground up, rethink of how it worked. And so I didn't really care about the name at that point. I just made a new chisel and thought I'll just throw some ideas in here and see what comes out. And what we ended up with was that. And so I was just kind of making a new version of it from scratch and just throwing in all these different ideas that people had, like the preview. And so it's fair to say that we're going to keep tweaking it. It's definitely not done. And also the basic chisel GUI is not going to stay the same. I have a few things in mind that I'm going to add to that. Maybe not as crazy as the new one, but it's not going to be completely left out.
Yeah, I think the thing that people love about Chisel, I guess, is and why it's become this iconic decoration mod is because you can have all these styles, I guess, in the same game because you don't. I mean, it's all in one mod. So I guess what's it like, kind of managing all of that inside of one mod in terms of having kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that in terms of themes with all the decoration blocks you have.
I think for the coding part, it's relatively the same for all of them. I guess that would probably be more towards Drullkus, I think, right?
Yeah, kind of creatively.
So what's been happening? Wait, are you talking about behind the scenes or just?
Well, he's asked how is it working with different, because we have high tech blocks and we also have fantasy blocks. How is it working with a mod that has a big selection of different types of themes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile, really. what I'm trying to do. This is actually sort of a mistake I've made during the earlier days of Chisel, where I was just constantly making decoration blocks, which were previously known as the technical blocks, but I've renamed all of that to factory blocks now. But what I'm going to try to focus on more is maybe trying to do a bits like a kind of a equal treatment of adding to the magic and tech blocks, which means I'm going to be doing quite a couple of magic relay blocks for quite a while, because we have a lot of factory blocks and lots of blocks in the tech department. So I'm I'm kind of looking at trying to see if I can add some more magic-y theme patterns to the current existing blocks, which the stones, marble, basalt, cobble, purpur, and stone, etc.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we sort of need is to add another block variation group, because we have quite plenty of those, and I'm only willing to add a new block if there really is a need for it. But otherwise, I will just create variations for the existing vanilla blocks.
So it's kind of, I guess, you're trying to fit it in a vanilla sort of style to keep it all together or cohesive.
Yeah.
You've been working on Prismarine quite a bit recently, right?
Yeah. I actually got a cape from that.
Yeah, I guess it's been interesting with 1.8 and I guess 1.7 and 1.8. There's all these new kind of blocks of stone. I guess it's pretty old news in terms of vanilla Minecraft, but for the Minecraft modding community, obviously we move a bit slower because there's lots of work that has to be done to kind of enable that. So now that we're kind of getting to all these new kinds of, I guess, world gen, I guess do you think has the mod kind of changed as a result of that, like the direction it's taken?
Well, in the 1.7 version, we did actually add the 1.8 rocks into it.
Yeah.
So those have existed for a while, though they were a little limited. There weren't too many variations, but they were there. And then I think in the 1.8 version, we actually started adding the purpur, which was from 1.9. And so we've kind of always been a little ahead of where we actually were. But yeah, I mean, it definitely, vanilla adding new decorative things definitely kind of gives us more freedom. We finally have, a room to add this purple block that before would have had trouble like coming up with our own concept, but now it already exists. So it's already in the game. People can already get it, and now you can it's easy.
Yeah.
Well, also, like one of the other things we don't have to really worry about that for 1.10, because of how relatively simple the 1.10 update was actually on the core code.
It wasn't just simple; it was nothing. I didn't do anything.
Well, yeah, on well, I'm just saying about the actual Minecraft 1.10 update, they pretty much just added some features, but they didn't really change anything that already existed. So pretty much most mods, including Chisel, the mod pretty much just works on 1.10.
Yeah, from a tech perspective, I guess what's that been like? Because I mean, obviously we've come from these two really difficult updates for modders, 1.8 and 1.9, and 1.10 by comparison, at least from 1.9.4. Basically, it's a process of, I guess, recompiling, if that. It's very easy for modders. A little more work for Forge, but basically 1.9.4 mods can work on 1.10 really well. So I guess what was it like? I guess for the first time. I guess for like
we did not need to recompile out.
Yeah. So what was it like for like a big Minecraft version transition to not really need to worry about that? I guess what was that like?
It's an interesting change because I mean this is how they used to do updates. Only recently, last 3 or 4 have taken so long. They used to be kind of just come out every so often, and I think they're kind of getting back to that because that's what people have wanted. They're tired of waiting a year for an update and then it being even buggier than the last one. So they're just gonna. And this is the way I've always thought it should be done. Release an update every few months, fix a lot of bugs, add a few new things to keep people kind of interested, but mostly focus on fixing the game because there's so many problems with it, and it's getting better. So 1.10 was definitely a good step, I think. And it's nice that mods just kind of for the most part, just work so that there's, because if updates came quickly and broke everything every time, then that'd be really bad, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm gonna be honest. I sort of enjoyed the new blocks coming in because I can just kind of look at adding variations without having to introduce our own blocks.
Right, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, it's a lot easier when the base concept already exists.
Yep.
So it
Those
kind
new
of
magma blocks are pretty cool looking.
The what blocks?
You know the magma blocks?
They're new
Oh,
in
the
110.
magma blocks. Yeah.
We haven't
So-
done anything on that yet, but I'm pretty sure if you give Drullkus enough time, he's gonna do something.
Yeah.
Well,
I
no-
totally am. I totally am. You
Well-
know it.
well, we filled you in, so expect an update tomorrow.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I guess vanilla is kind of giving you this foundation, I guess, because Chisels existed so long, and I guess initially it was just kind of a way for people to have all these kind of different texture packs or styles in the same mod. But now it's kind of it's more of a creatively focused on vanilla in terms of being like, hey, I just want a slight variation in this block that looks like this. I can do that because now I have this chisel.
Yeah.
Actually,
Also, what-
one of the things Chisel is praised for is that basically there's a lot of people who don't really have a lot of confidence in their building skills, and Chisel kind of gives them this confidence boost in their buildings because they have more freedom in choosing their blocks. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to help improve that by part of the retexturing where basically I take away the chaos that is the chaos of the art styles between the block variations. So you will see the variations of style between different blocks, but in the same block, it will be the same style.
And one of the other big things we've done, besides just the outward stuff, we've been working because of the refactor. We've actually sort of made our own little bit of our own render kind of system that uses our own custom JSON format.
Oh yeah, that's definitely powerful. minecreatr and tterag, you two are definitely the masterminds behind that.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done there is basically kind of expanded upon the vanilla system with models and such, and making it so that, a block isn't tied to whatever special rendering it had when we decided to make it. So, in 1.7, if a block was connected textures, that's what it was. You couldn't really change it. If you wanted to make a resource pack for it, you couldn't make it something else. You had to make a connected texture for it. So now you can change that with JSON files. You can make any block connected texture. Currently only chisel blocks, but soon hopefully any block ever. That's
You made
towards.
an experimental bit of code that allowed you to do like vanilla blocks, but that was like a core mod, so we're probably not going to. But if we do that, that's probably not going to be in the main mod. It's probably
always going to need to be a core mod. So yeah, it'll have to be outside of Chisel, but it will be possible. And so you can make vanilla glass have connected textures without a dedicated mod for it. You can make any texture. You could make Botania have connected textures if you want to, or anything. So that sounds cool to me, at least. I don't know how much it'll get used.
Actually, given that there are already resource packs that use quite a bit of CTM, I do know Sphax uses quite a bit of CTM, like randomization, general connected textures, and some other things. I think Sphax would also greatly appreciate the usage of our system as well.
Basically, under the hood, but we're basically doing is the different JSONs. You can define what render type you want a block to be, and the render type is defined in code. And we actually, using the API, is still a little bit WIP, but the API, you can actually define your own custom render type. And so another mod could and basically we have like the render types for like CTM. We have the one that that repeats over every few blocks, and we have the one that's just random. We have the ones that are like pillars, and basically you can define your own, and basically it'll read that from the JSON, get certain data from it. And there's basically the JSON files define the textures and the faces of the text of the blocks, and then those sort of get applied to the models.
Huh. So that's actually pretty neat, especially when you consider stuff like, I mean, people it may sound like abstract, oh, connected textures, oh, having randomized textures, but I think that really helps in terms of like a build. Having all that stuff really does help with like the cohesiveness and actually making something look really neat. And that's one of the awesome things about Chisel. You have this unified library of sorts to kind of build upon. With your builds, you can be like, oh, I want like maybe this mod doesn't have some type of connected steel metalish block, but I can get like 10 of those with the chisel and they all kind of fit together. So I think that's definitely been helpful for builds, especially as we see a bigger variety of mods and themes that people adapt.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think we were planning, and I don't know, I think we might still do it at some point. I mean, we have some other stuff we're probably going to do first, but one of the ideas is like the ability to create like block packs, which are basically these zip files with like a JSON manifest and a few things that would be able to basically define blocks so people can easily, without having to code, make their own blocks that use our render system and basically can have connected textures or other fancy things that we use.
Yeah, this is this whole block packing system is aimed for Bob Packers, and Bob Packers, those who kind of make the special kind of Bob Packs are kind of Agarian Skies Relay or Crash Landing, especially maybe Material Energy series.
So kind of like, I guess, for example, a pack like Crash Landing could have like a custom terrain block or something very easily without having to make a mod for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like you could be like, hey,
exactly.
the Earth is red, so there's a red block, and you won't have to, I guess, make a mod. You could just do
and
it
you
through
can
JSON.
use special rendering for like CTM or randomize or whatever.
Yeah,
Wait,
I mean,
one of the things of our system, which I don't think, which is a little bit unique about connected textures, I think, is that it only uses 2 PNG files that are relatively small, because we basically have, like, some things, there's, like, I know there's, like, a version of CTM, like, the really old one used, like, some other mods, like, the original version of connected textures in Minecraft used, like, 47 different PNG files, and then there's some ones that use less, but we only have to use 2. We have, like, a pretty nice format. I don't know who made it originally. It might have been, like, you might have even gone back to automatic made it.
I believe it's existed since the original version. It's actually 5 textures if you want to be
yeah, it's 5, but they can be combined.
One small texture that's normal size, one double size. Yeah, but it only uses up the space of 5 textures for what ends up being a ridiculous amount of different variations. So if we actually made a texture for every possible variation, I think the game would probably run out of memory a lot quicker.
Oh yeah.
Or it would break the max texture size and it wouldn't launch at all. So.
well, yeah, that would be a problem for memory. But I guess when you're designing Chisel, you kind of have this. You have to take this modularity, I guess, in everything you do, because it's all about mechanically. It's pretty simple. It's like, hey, I have a chisel and I can make variations of these blocks. But I think on a content level, it has to be very open and I guess modular to allow for expansion. Like because that's the whole point of it. So I think it's the idea of opening that up. We've had mods that let people make blocks before, but something of that scale, like I think that's unprecedented, and that could actually be amazing for just anyone who's interested in building cool things.
Well, yeah, basically,
Chisel is basically this mod that seems simple on the front end, where it just adds blocks and a IM board too. But basically, it's powered by a very powerful code base, and it's pretty small too. And yes, it's modular.
Yeah, basically, the thing that I think I see Chisel as really as the core mod, like the code itself is pretty much basically just a render engine and something that allows us to easily define blocks and basically add them to like a chiseling list so that you can do it with a chisel and allow that for fancy rendering. And so basically we can easily do that in code. And so relatively simply, which I think we're planning to do, basically we could just extend that to allowing it to read a JSON file or a zip file or something. So basically what the core of the actual like code of the mod is it's basically a render engine and something that allows you to basically transform between different blocks.
Huh. So like we've had stuff like obviously we have minecreatr, which lets you tweak recipes, and we on CurseForge, whether it be in the form of a mod pack or just a raw script. Someone being like, hey, this is a package of recipes that makes mod X and mod Y work well together. And now I guess, or I guess in the future, someone could possibly just say, hey, this is an add-on pack for Chisel, and if you add this to your game, or this is in my mod pack, this adds a bunch of blocks that fit in between these two mods, or just my own thing. I guess you could kind of let people build upon creatively upon a technical foundation, since you've already created a really solid one.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing I see it as basically is compared to like those other things that allow you to add blocks. If we did this block pack system, which I think we probably will do at some point, basically the thing about Chisel is it's specialized to basically looking good and having the fancy rendering systems. API, you can, if you know how to code, like people could make their own rendering systems. Basically, it's a way of defining blocks specifically for decoration and looking good.
Yeah, and that's important because you don't want to have like, we've all seen those like, I guess, thing mods where you can like create your own block, but it's very limited in the sense of like, oh yeah, you want to connect a texture, you want it to have some fancy animated thing, good luck with that. Then you have to make your own mod, and you're on your own in terms of doing all that rendering yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I actually have a mod like that, a custom blocks mod that I made myself. And having this library, which allows any block to have connected textures or whatever slapped onto it, would definitely make that more powerful automatically. If anybody can make a block and then apply their own special textures to it, you know.
Well, one of the ideas I had, I don't know, I haven't actually talked about it way too much, is maybe even making a library from some of the code that we have for the rendering system we made, and then maybe Chisel would mostly just be a thing for that, and then that
that's what CTMlib is.
Well, yeah, but basically
definitely going to happen.
Well, the one main reason, CTMlib is because this would be more than just connected textures. It would be the general, texture system that we have. So I don't know if CTMlib would be a good name for it anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, you might be right. It might be might be worthwhile to rename it to something else. But I'll think of other names. I'm terrible with names, so don't expect anything amazing.
And
it's definitely a force to behold.
Well, I think but mainly because I'm not a builder, but I think builders will look forward to this a lot. But I think anyone who just doesn't know how to program but is good with art or just has an idea, that's pretty awesome that they can do that now. But I want to get back to, I guess, go with this update, with all these updates, especially on 1.9 and 1.10. There's kind of this new decoration mod in town. Obviously, it's not Chisel at all, but it has the name in it. It's Chisels and Bits, and it's basically micro blocks. But I guess with that, has there been any, I guess, interaction that you guys have had with that mod?
Well, we did actually have a problem. We used to have a problem with it, but then that just got fixed by an update from both mods. But so at the moment, it basically, you can chisel our blocks, and they work well together. I've actually seen, like, on the Better Than Minecon server, I saw like this very cool thing where somebody chiseled with the chisel and bit some chisel blocks, and then made like a very cool looking thing. And one of the things we have planned for the future is integrating it with our custom rendering system, so allowing connected textures to work. Though that is something we're still working on, and would require a change on Chisel and Bits, which would require a change on Chisel and Bits end as well. So I may make a pull request to them at some point, but at the moment, basically, that's something we've been looking into. But it is, but yeah, at the moment we have like the blocks render with it, but none of the fancy stuff. But like connected textures doesn't work with Chisel and Bits at the moment. But we're thinking of maybe doing that in the future if it's possible. But it's complicated.
Yeah, that sounds very complicated.
One other thing that I wanted to mention was, if I remember correctly, our connected textures should work with Amadorna's multi-part.
I don't know.
Theoretically,
his API doesn't have as much rendering, but yeah. Basically, the two big problems, honestly, with the Chisel Bits with connected texture integration that I thought of is basically, first of all, one of the things I've talked to Algorithm X2 a little bit, actually, is that one of the things about the Chisel and Bits models and blocks, is that they're supposed to be static. They're supposed to be the same no matter where you put them, and CTM is sort of world-based. And so what you want to be able to do is have it say, like, the states of the connection saved in the model. And because you could have lots of different bits of chisel blocks in it, you need a good way to configure that. And that's sort of like, there's not really a good way to do that. You'd have to have a GUI, and then that would be sort of clunky. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that have to be Chisel Bits would have to have an API to allow us to store custom data, which, as I said, I might do in a pull request at some point. Basically, we have to deal with the technical side of that, but also, how do you actually let the users tell the blocks what to connect to? Like, do you use a GUI or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tricky problem to solve, but we're going to try and do something. At least, in my mind, at least currently, it works to some extent. There might not be any special rendering, but you can use it. It doesn't make a blank block or something, which is how it worked before. You just get invisible blocks. So better than that.
I actually have an idea I had this weekend. It's something to do with like having columns line up for connected edges. I don't know. That was just, but I've been pondering this quite a bit. And there's a problem of the user access and the ability to configure it and how you do that, and the technical side.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely sounds like a huge technical problem to solve. I'm not a programmer, but just imagining working with, you have all this fancy rendering stuff and then applying it on a scale of micro blocks. That sounds intimidating.
Well, I think the biggest thing, honestly, is like, how do you let the players actually configure it? Because if you, let's say you have like 20 different types of chisel blocks in one chisel and bit, and it's like, you have that, and the person, and those are all connected textures. And let's say you start off with one block that's connected, and you chisel that, so you get that. It turns into a Chisel and Bits block. Those connections stay. Then you add new ones, and you want those to be connected in certain directions. How are you going to configure that? There's not. You can't, are you going to play? No, it doesn't really work that well. So you have to have some sort of GUI. I mean, there are
templates.
I guess, but how do you create? I guess but it's sort of a little bit clunky.
You create it in world, and then you plop a template on it, and then you'd have that version.
But then what if you want to combine different connections, though? Like, you want to have one type of connection block that connects up and down, and one type that connects side to side, and they're different ones, and you want to have them in the same block.
If I understand correctly, because Chisels and Bits, it's not like, I think, what was it, the little blocks mod we had a while ago? Like, that mod basically just took tiny blocks. Oh, that's how it did it. Whereas Chisels and Bits, you're kind of filling in the individual pixels of the texture, if I had that correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's possible. It's just, well, the problem you were saying is, how do you do it with individual bits? Well, you would just create the block a different way, and then use the chisel and poke some bits out of it, and then use those.
I guess,
I mean,
but like, the thing
possible.
It is possible, but that just, honestly, to me, sounds sort of annoying. But basically, the two main things I've been thinking about is, first, it just seems annoying. I can't really think of a good way to do it without making it inconvenient to do. That's one of the hardest things. I mean, I was thinking of maybe doing GUI, and then the second part is the technical part, which I'd have to dive into the Chisel and Bits code and then make a pull request to algorithms repository. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, if that ever gets done, that'd be awesome. But the fact that it works now as it does, I think that's still pretty cool. People listening, just be aware, you can make tiny chisel blocks. You just can't do fancy stuff with them yet. But yeah, I guess more broadly with the more recent versions of the game, we've seen, I guess Chisels and Bits isn't the only new mod. We have a lot of new mods, and obviously we've had this holdout from lots of big tech and magic, or just big established mods, with a few exceptions like Chisel. So I guess, what is it like seeing this new frontier with lots of different mods? Because I myself on CurseForge have seen lots of decorative mods as well, not like Chisel, but mods that are different. So I guess, what's it like to have this new slate with a new version?
I've seen it before. This is kind of the same thing that happened coming into 1.7. 1.7 had a lot of new stuff. It was the age of Ender.io becoming popular and things like that. And so at one point, 1.9 definitely have been a lot more extreme in that regard. We've had a lot of mods kind of die out and some new ones come out of the works. But so it's definitely interesting, and it's kind of something that needs to happen every now and then. One version becomes stale, all the mods start to kind of compete with each other. There's just too many, and it's a good thing to kind of start over, get some new blood in there. The thing is about writing a mod from scratch and porting an old mod through 1.8, 1.9, it's almost easier to just write a new one. So the people who had these ideas that didn't really have anywhere to go with them because 1.7 was so saturated now actually have a platform. Like I'm trying to think of any new ones. Actually, Edition, Tech Reborn, all these that couldn't have really been pushed in 1.7. No one would have used them because it was already so saturated. Now they kind of have somewhere to put their stuff and have people use it, and it shows because they're actually getting popular.
Well, right.
Yeah, talking about rewriting it being easier. I mean, yeah, I did. When it first came out, the Chisel that we're currently using was a complete rewrite from scratch with a bunch of the code, which some of the code snippets like brought in. So.
Yeah, it's like with Thaumcraft, I guess, like every few versions, I guess, Asnor, what he does is, I mean, I guess I can understand this creatively, he kind of redoes the whole thing. Because, I mean, technically he has to already redo a lot of it. And I guess we've seen that with 1.8 and 1.9 so much because there have been so many changes on the back end, which results in, I guess, all sorts of new ideas. So what do you think has made, I guess, Chisel stay around so long? You know, I mean, some mods like NEI and stuff are kind of dead now, but Chisel is alive as ever from the looks of it. So I guess how does that happen?
I think part of it is open source nature. Obviously, it could have been continued. If it was closed source, it would have died in 1.5, right? And also, it's just that it's kind of this the correct blend of unique and useful, and everybody uses it, and simple. It's not a big, huge, complicated mod that anyone who was trying to take it over would just go ugh and never touch it again. You know, like imagine if IC2 died. Maybe it was open source, but you think someone's going to take over that code base? I wouldn't. You know, Chisel's small enough that you can kind of manage it and learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned, mechanically, Chisel is beautifully simple, which lets you get all those block variants.
Well, actually, I didn't really look at to be completely honest, I didn't look at the 1.7 code from that much. I just treated writing a mod that would have the same outward appearance.
Well, yeah, it's also the feature set more than the codes. You know, even if you just wanted to create IC2 from scratch, you would have a lot of work ahead of you. Chisel is basically got blocks and the chisel item, and then you're done. I mean, it's a lot. It's not nothing, but it's not as much as some others.
The thing that was really hard was connected textures. That took me like a few months of solid work.
That's like the thing.
That was the biggest roadblock.
That was one of the first things I got done because it was like the biggest thing, and I was surprised I was actually able to do it. To be completely honest, that was hard.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome, and something I've seen just looking on Reddit, I guess, coming from 1.7, if you would look at, say, the Feed the Beast Reddit, you get a lot of posts like, oh, look at my huge big reactor setup, look at my huge Ender IO setup, and it started to get a little stale, I guess, if you weren't really into that tech scene. But now, like you mentioned, since you don't have all that stuff yet, at least in 1.10, 1.9, all that stuff, but you do have Chisel and you do have these other mods, you do kind of see more of this stuff like, oh, look at my, like I just saw this really cool winter themed build on the Feed the Beast subreddit that like probably would not have been on their front page a few months ago when 1.7 was in its heyday. So I think it's kind of cool to see this forced renaissance of just like of what people do with the modded game. And I think it's I guess, do you see Minecraft becoming, at least for now, more decoratively focused or decoratively inspired?
I think, yeah, there's definitely a new wave of decorative stuff. So that's definitely going to help. But the game has always been so open that anybody can do really whatever they want. And the people who were being decorative before are going to be decorative now. They're just going to have different tools to do it. So it'll definitely be different, but I don't know if there'll necessarily be more or less of it.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty equalized, sort of.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to focus on aesthetics, and I just like seeing all that stuff as someone who isn't super into like tech mods and stuff. So that's definitely been cool, and I guess a happy side effect of stuff like Chisel being on 1.10. But yeah, thank you all of you for coming on today. And I guess any closing thoughts?
I'll just say that, I know a lot of people out there are kind of in the twilight zone of wanting to learn how to mod, but not really thinking they can or not knowing how. And I was definitely there like 3-4 years ago ish, and I remember a specific point, maybe 2-ish years ago, a little more, where I thought to myself, I looked at Chisel and I went, "Oh, that rendering is so complicated. I hope I never have to maintain that mod. That'd be really hard." And so, we know how that worked out.
And
So,
now
you can
T-Rex
definitely
got this
right,
clear
yeah.
GUI, and just can you even believe you made that yourself?
Well, I can now. I mean, I've taken college courses now in rendering and stuff, so it's in it's just a short period of time. I've gone from knowing almost nothing to knowing probably more than almost. I mean, I'm not like bragging or anything, but there's a very small the game and modding and rendering and all that, and so you can definitely go somewhere if you just want to try.
I guess what
Just
I want
hang
to
in there.
say,
Just hang in there.
this I have too. Basically, you could pretty much, if you try it something long enough, you can do it. Basically, the 2 tricks is just try a lot and then bug fry with all your questions.
Yeah.
You can do it.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, lesson learned. You can do it, and that's, I don't know. I do think that's definitely something. I guess a theme we've covered on the series before. People learning how to mod, or just in general learning technical or things that they didn't know before. And I think this community is great for that. We may not be the most official or have the most documentation, but go experiment, go on forums, go on IRC, go on Discord, go on whatever. Talk to people who know what they're doing, and maybe learn yourself what to do. That's definitely how we've gotten a lot of these awesome mods, like the ones we've had on here, like Chisel. So just, I guess, go learn something new. And yeah, but yeah, thank you again, all of you guys, for coming on. And it's been an awesome show, and I guess this will be a fun one to edit with 4 people. But yeah, I'll have this up soon. Hope all you guys watching enjoyed, and yeah, see you in the next one. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.